Lin Ruochen woke up from a storm and, when he opened his eyes, he was completely confused. Around him was not the dormitory he knew, nor the table filled with snack bags, but a dim dirt house with broken roofs, and the light leaking in pierced his eyes. He looked down and saw that he was wearing a torn coarse cloth dress, his cuffs were worn, and his feet were covered with straw sandals, full of mud. What's going on? He couldn't help but mutter, and the sound seemed to have not drunk water for several days. There were a lot of questions in his brain. He clearly remembered that he had just finished a game and stayed up late to brush the dungeon until dawn, and then his eyes turned dark and he fell on the keyboard. How did you become this ghost when you wake up? He got up and stood firmly, and suddenly a buzzing sound in his brain, as if something was being forced into it. A lot of strange memory fragments rushed in, and he squatted down with his head in his arms, almost passing by. After a long time, he gasped and cleared these memories, and his face became more difficult to see than before. Have you traveled through time? Lin Ruochen gritted his teeth and whispered a curse. From these memories, he understood that he was not in modern times now, but came to a place called Tianyuan. The background of the times was probably similar to that of the war country, and the war was constantly in chaos, and the 7 countries were in a mess, and the people were suffering. The original owner of his body, also known as Lin Ruochen, was a young man from a small family in the country. He was weak and sickly from a small family and had no ability. No one in the family looked down on him, and even the servants dared to show him a face. It's really a local scourge. Lin Ruochen smiled bitterly and slammed his head. He wanted to complain about 2 more words, but suddenly he heard a hurrying sound from outside, accompanied by shouting, "Xiao! Xiao Yao! No, the enemy is coming again!" The door was pushed open with a bang sound, and a thin little pants ran in, her face full of mud, as if she had just fallen from somewhere. When he saw Lin Ruochen, he quickly knelt down and said tremblingly, "Young man, the enemy has arrived outside the city. The head of the family will let you go to the office with urgency." Attack? Lin Ruo's eyebrows burst out, and his brain quickly revealed the original owner's memory. This small city is called Bluestone City, located in the border area of Tianyuan. It has been stricken by the army of the country in the past few months. The defenders in the city have long been dead and their resources are almost exhausted. Although the original owner was a family member, because of Wu Chai's reputation, no one expected him to do anything. He could not even enter the office. He suddenly asked him to come over today. It was probably because the situation was really in a state of decline. "Okay, take the way." Lin Ruochen patted the dust on his body and stood up straight. The little deer was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't expect that he would answer so simply, but he didn't dare to ask too much, and was busy leading the way. After walking out of the old yard, Lin Ruochen saw the scene outside clearly. Bluestone City is not big, and the streets are filled with people who are fleeing. They are dragged by their families and their faces are full of shock and hope. In the direction of the city wall far away, you can hear the sound of war drums and shouts, and there is a heavy smell of blood in the air. His heart sank. Although it was the first time he had seen this scene, he had never experienced the battle scene in the game. He knew that it would be too early to break the city if the rhythm continued. When we arrived at the meeting hall, there were already people inside, all of which were high-level members of the Lin family and several big figures in the city. As soon as he entered the door, Lin Ruochen felt a bunch of bad eyes shooting at him. Some people sneered, some people rolled their eyes directly, and the pressure didn't take him seriously. A middle-aged man wearing a long robe sat in the main seat, with a blue face. He was Lin Tienda, the head of the Lin family, and the father of Lin Ruochen. "Ruochen, what are you doing?" Lin Tienda's eyebrows became even more tight when he saw him, and his language was full of impatientness. "This is not the place you should come, go back and stay." Lin Ruochen rolled his eyes in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He just bowed his head and said calmly, "Father, the child heard that the enemy is coming, and came to see if there is anything that can help him." As soon as this was released, the restaurant was blown up. Someone laughed out loud and mocked, "Help? You, what kind of sick person, can you help?" Don't just drag your back legs and thank God. Another old man also snorted coldly, head of the family, it's not time to play, so that he can go back so that he won't be able to see you here. Lin Ruochen lowered her head, and the corner of her mouth slightly raised. He knew these people looked down on him, but the more he was, the more he had to calm down. At this moment, a cold electronic voice suddenly popped up in his brain. The military strategy system is activated and the host is detected in the war environment. Is the battle analysis started? System? Lin Ruochen was stunned and immediately felt ecstatic. When he was playing games, he loved to study various strategy systems the most, but he didn't expect that he could still bring a golden finger after traveling through time. The next second, a translucent panel appeared in his brain, showing the terrain of Bluestone City, the distribution of the enemy troops around, and the comparison of the forces of the defenders. The data is so detailed that it is amazing, and even the enemy's attacking routes and possible weaknesses are clearly marked. Lin Ruochen quickly glanced at him and his heart was already at a loss. Father, he raised his head, his language was calm but with an inexplicable confidence. The child has a defiant idea. If he listened to it, he might be able to save Bluestone City. The hall was calm and everyone stared at him with a look of foolish eyes. Lin Tianyuan was even more angry and shook his beard and said angrily, Ruochen, what are you talking about? Destroy the enemy? Do you know what it means to fight? Let me say something else, believe it or not, I will shut you up. Lin Ruochen was calm and continued, Father, although there are many enemy soldiers, they have been traveling a long way and cannot keep up with the grass. They are now in a state of fatigue. If we can use the terrain and set up ambush, it is not impossible to fight with less effort. I have already figured out a plan. As long as we cooperate properly, the enemy will be able to come and never return. This is said to the point that although the people in the hall still don't believe it, some people have started to move. After all, Bluestone City is now absolutely dead. No one has any good ideas, and it will be impossible to hear one more idea. Lin Tianyuan looked calmly, stared at Lin Ruochen for a while, and finally snorted coldly, Okay, I will give you an opportunity to tell you your plan. If it's nonsense, don't blame my family for serving you. Lin Ruochen smiled slightly and began to explain his plan in detail. Based on the terrain data provided by the system, he proposed a marvelous plan. Use the terrain of the valley outside Bluestone City to pretend to abandon the city and escape, attract the enemy to go deeper, and then set up ambushes on both sides of the valley to cut off their retreat, and finally the last one was almost done. In order to make the plan more credible, he further analyzed the enemy's psychology in detail and pointed out that the opponent's initiative is eager to make contributions and will inevitably lead to the enemy's risk. The people in the restaurant were stunned. Who would have thought that this Wu Chai Xiao would be able to tell such a model and similar plan? Although Lin Tianyuan was still half believing, he had no other choice but to grit his teeth and agree, Okay, let's try as you said. But if you are chaotic, I warn you, if the plan fails and the people in the city suffer, I will not be able to give you the first one. Lin Ruochen pointed a little, but there was no pressure in his heart. The data provided by the system is too accurate, and he is 90% sure he will succeed. In the next few hours, he personally participated in the arrangement, selected a group of elite soldiers, arranged them to ambush on both sides of the valley, and prepare a large amount of rocks and tinder oil for the enemy to give a gift bag. As night fell, the gate of Bluestone City opened, and a team of people fled in panic and retreated towards the valley. The enemy was indeed in charge and would see the defending army abandon the city, laughing loudly, and led most of the troops straight into the valley, pressing the murderers hidden on the hillsides on both sides. Lin Ruochen stood at the top of the mountain, watching the enemy fish entering, silently stumbled in his heart. When the last enemy also entered the ambush circle, he suddenly shook his hand and shouted in a low voice, Run! In an instant, the sound of killings from both sides of the valley shook the sky, and rocks and tinder fell from the hillside. The enemy was smashed and turned over and over, and the flames swept across the sky, and the sound of shouting was endless. The ambushed soldiers took advantage of the trouble and the enemy was beaten to the point of defeat. Lin Ruochen looked at this scene and couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth, thinking to himself, this is the power of modern strategies. How could ancient people have seen this battle? The battle lasted for less than half an hour, and almost all the enemy troops were defeated, and the leader was also captured alive. The guards of Bluestone City were greatly aroused, and the people even regarded Lin Ruochen as their life-saving benefactor and knelt down to thank him. Lin Tianda looked at his son with a complicated look, both shocked and relieved, but he still said with a hard voice, "You are so lucky this time, don't think you really have any skills." Lin Ruochen was so proud that he was very angry that he was in a rebellious way. He knew that this was just the beginning. Although Bluestone City was safe a while ago, a bigger crisis was still at the back. At this moment, a horse's hooves sounded from afar, and a team of people rushed to the ground. The leader was a tall slab with a cheek full of his face and cheeks, as powerful as a tiger going down the mountain. "Is there anyone here in the Lin family in Qingshi City?" The Hanzi turned over and said, his voice was as loud as thunder, which made people's ears numb. He glanced around and finally his eyes fell on Lin Ruochen, and there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Hear you to retreat the enemy with less and less efforts? Who is the person in charge?" Lin Ruochen stepped forward and bowed. "Word to Lin Ruochen, I will defeat the enemy and dare not take credit." "I wonder what the army will be." The Hanzi laughed and patted his chest. "My name is Zhao Pojun. He is the leader of the Tianyuan army. He heard that Bluestone City was in danger and he specially brought troops to support him. He didn't expect you to solve it yourself. Little brother, I can't tell you, you are so tender and have this ability." Lin Ruochen smiled and replied, "I have won the army, but it's just a few small things. Since I have arrived, why not go into the city?" Zhao defeated the troops and followed Lin Ruochen into the city with his subordinates. Along the way, he kept looking at Lin Ruochen, his eyes full of appreciation. He has seen many young people, but like Lin Ruochen, he is as thin as a book student. He can come up with such a ruthless plan. After entering the meeting hall, the two sat down for details. Zhao Pamilitary spoke frankly and said that this time he was not only trying to rescue Bluestone City, but also looking for a capable alien to help him turn the battle in the border area. Lin Ruochen heard it and felt that it was a good opportunity to hold his thighs. So he said half-jokingly, "If you don't mind the defeat, I'd rather try it. But I don't have any skills, so I will make some wrong things, and I'm afraid I won't be able to help you." When Zhao Pojun heard this, his eyes lit up and he slapped the table suddenly. "Okay. I'll just say this to you, I believe you. From now on, you are my brother. With me here, who can't try to touch you?" Lin Ruochen smiled and pointed, knowing in his heart that this affair cannot be survived by brotherhood. Although Zhao defeated the army generously, the battles in the border are complicated, and the enemies behind them are far more than just the surface. He must seize the time, use the advantages of the system to help the army station stabilize and gain more space for himself. At this moment, a sudden outbreak of a sudden emerged from outside the hall, and a soldier ran in panic and reported that a wounded woman was found outside the city, dressed in torn clothes, as if she had escaped from a war scene. Lin Ruochen raised his eyebrows, feeling a little unfavorable, but he still walked out with the Zhaopa army. At the entrance of the city gate, a woman fell to the ground. Her face was white and blood was still hanging on the corners of her mouth, but the face was so beautiful that it was hard to see. Although her eyes were weak, she felt a sense of stubbornness. When she saw Lin Ruochen, she reluctantly said, Save me." Lin Ruochen squatted down, looked at her carefully, muttering in his heart, "This girl's journey is not simple. If she can grow like this in the world, she will definitely have a story if she dares to run to Qingshi City alone." He turned to Zhaopa's army, "Take the army back first, and ask when you wake up." Zhao defeated the army and ordered his subordinates to carry the woman into the city. Lin Ruochen looked at her back and found out that the appearance of this woman might be a new variable. But no matter what, in this battle in Bluestone City, he stood firm, and then there was a bigger stage waiting for him to go to the trench. The night was getting deeper, and the lights and fires were swaying in the office of Bluestone City, and the smell of nitrozone after the daytime battle was still left in the air. Lin Ruochen sat aside, glanced at Zhao's destruction army from time to time. The two of them just agreed to set up their next defenses, and their brains were still counting on the situation in the surrounding area. The woman outside the city has been placed in a remote courtyard in the city, guarded by several veterans, but has not yet woken up. Lin Ruochen was always feeling a little unsteady, but he couldn't say where he was wrong. He could only put this matter first and should be careful to the trouble in front of him. Ruochen, I really haven't heard of the wars you said. Zhao Po's army held the wine bowl in one hand and patted his thigh with the other, impressed with admiration. What is it called sounding east and west? What is it called being deep into the enemy? How do you grow up with this brain? It's completely different from these rough people. Lin Ruochen smiled, picked up the wine bowl and met the Zhao Po army, and whispered, don't express my gratitude to the army. I'm all a little clever. When I'm on the real war, I have to rely on your fierce attack. I just whisper, and I can't do anything to move. Zhao Po army laughed, took a sip of wine, wiped his mouth and said, you guy, you are stupid, but your heart is not simple. But seriously, this piece of the border is not as good as that of Bluestone City. The enemy's strength is incorrect, and it is not enough to rely on one or two small games. Although I have several thousand men under my command, the grass is insufficient and the military is not stable. There are still several national tigers in the back. If you can really help me stay stable, I will give you my life to the Zhao Po army. Lin Ruochen heard it and felt aroused in his heart. On the surface, he still said with a smile, if the army is serious, it is appropriate for brothers to help each other. However, I have some ideas about these problems you said. If the grass is insufficient, you can think of ways from the enemy. If the military is not stable, you have to come to inspire people's hearts. As for the threat of the country, we can come to far to fate near attack and first calm the distance and then clean up the nearest. Zhao Po's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly chased and asked, far match close attack? What's the saying? Lin Ruochen didn't hide it, and briefly explained this strategy. The general idea was to join forces with the remote forces to deal with nearby enemies. This could not only reduce the risk of being surrounded, but also concentrate on fighting the main target. Based on the terrain data provided by the system, he analyzed the advantages and disadvantages of several key points in the border area. It is recommended that the Zhao Po army first take down a small barrier not far from Qingshi City as a forward base, and send people to contact other forces of the far-reaching country to seek a temporary alliance. Zhao Po army heard the head and slapped the table and said, okay. Just follow what you said. I will send someone to explore the narrow terrain tomorrow morning. You go with me and give me some advice. Lin Ruochen looked down and thought in his heart that this battle was not as simple as Bluestone City. Although the system gave data, it changed a lot in the battle, and if you were not careful, you might lose the entire disk. He had to prepare well and not let the Zhao Po lose trust in him. The next morning, a team of 3,000 people had already been gathered outside the Bluestone City. The troops defeated the troops and led the team. Lin Ruochen followed him, riding a thin horse, which made him feel sore in his waist and back. He couldn't help but complain in his heart, the ancient Maku was really not a man. If I had known it, I would have packed several layers of cloth. The team went on for half a day and finally arrived near the small pass called Black Wind. The key to this place is that there are steep mountain walls on both sides, and there is only a narrow passage in the middle, which is easy to defend and difficult to attack. When the spy replied, Guan Nei guarded about 1,000 enemy troops. Although there were not many people, he relied on his geographical advantage and was as solid as gold. The subordinates of Zhao Po's troops attacked several times before, but they all suffered a lot. Lin Ruochen jumped off the horse and stood on a high ground to observe. The system panel in the brain quickly refreshed the narrow terrain map and the enemy's defense situation. He narrowed his eyes and murmured, this place is really not easy to fight, it is definitely not good to attack, the injury is too great. I have to find a way to lead them out. Zhao Pojun left and saw him thinking, and couldn't help asking, Ruochen, why are you thinking? Lin Ruochen turned over and smiled, yes, but you have to take risks. Do you believe that I can let the enemy in the area run out and die by themselves? Zhao Pojun was stunned and laughed immediately. "You boy, what's the point? Let's listen." Lin Ruochen didn't sell Guanzi, and directly expressed his plan. He planned to use a small team of horses to pretend to be a grass-flying team, deliberately exposed to the vision area near Guan Pass, and induce the enemy to come out of Guanju. At the same time, the main force lies in the dense forests on both sides of the passage. When the enemy forces come into contact, they come to the door to beat the dogs and cut off their retreat. In order to make this plan more credible, he also suggested that several soldiers pretend to be wounded, creating the illusion of the warriors were shot and escaped by the emperor, further reducing the vigilance of the enemy. After hearing this, Zhao Po's eyes lit up. He slapped Lin Ruochen's shoulder suddenly and almost slapped him down. "Good boy, this method is enough. I like it. That's how to fuck him." That afternoon, everything was planned. A small team of men pushed a few broken wooden cars, and the car was piled with bales of grass, dangling into grass, and slowly crossing the mountain road below the pass. Several soldiers deliberately put on the injured look and walked around and heard the sound so loud that they could hear it from the old man. "Damn, there is still ambush in this ghost place. All the brothers are dead. We have to go back and report it." The enemy on the narrow side was indeed at the top. The guards saw that the sports team were few and weak. When they were about to get up, they led most of the people out of the narrow side and were ready to slap. Lin Ruochen hid in the dense forest, watching the enemy's fish coming out from afar, silently counting people in his heart. When almost 700 or 800 people left the cliff, he said to Zhaobang's defeated army in a low voice, "The army can be used." Zhao defeated the army and the ambushed soldiers immediately killed them from both sides, and arrows shot towards the enemy like rain. A team of soldiers rushed over from behind, blocking the entrance to the pass. The enemy was caught off guard and it was difficult to move forward and retreat. It was soon divided and surrounded, and the voices were filled with voices. Lin Ruochen looked at the shape on the battlefield, his mouth slightly raised, and thought to himself, "This is the advantage of poor information. How could ancient people understand psychological warfare?" The battle was fought neatly, and almost all the enemy troops were defeated. The defender was also cut by the Zhao army with one knife. The remaining soldiers had already left and surrendered. The Black Wind fell into the hands of the Zhao army so easily. The soldiers who were greatly excited shouted, "Mr. Lin's magic tricks," which made Lin Ruochen feel a little embarrassed. After taking down the Black Risk, the Zhao army immediately ordered the fortifications to be repaired and used this place as a new forward base. Lin Ruochen took advantage of this period of time and used the system to analyze the surrounding terrain and the enemy's movements, and proposed a larger plan. While the enemy's troops did not react, they directly broke into an enemy's 50 miles away from the Black Winds. As long as this whole lot of grass can be burned out, the enemy's logistics will eventually collapse and no large-scale attack will be launched in a short period of time. When Zhao Po's army heard this plan, although he felt it was a bit risky, he still chose to believe Lin Ruochen, so he ordered a team of 2,000 people that night to prepare for the night to fly. Lin Ruochen took his own team, carrying a few scouts familiar with the terrain, and walked past several whistles of the enemy's army and touched the vicinity of the marsh. The night was as bright as ink, and there were only a few dozen defenders around the turtle. It was obvious that someone would come to steal the ball in the middle of the night. Lin Ruochen let the soldiers dive in separately, quietly resolved several sentries, then lit a torch and threw it directly at the haystack. The fire spread rapidly, and the defenders shouted in panic to put out the fire, but there was no time to stop it. Soon the whole wall turned into a sea of fire. "Retreat!" Lin Ruochen ordered and quickly withdrew with his horse. By the time the majority of the enemy troops arrived, the jade had already been burned with only a pile of dust, and the Zhaobang army had already run away without any trace. The battle caught the enemy off guard, the logistics line finally broke down, and the pressure on the edge of the border was much lighter. Back to the Black Wind, Zhao army was as excited as a child. He pulled Lin Ruochen to drink wine, and kept saying in his mouth, "Ruochen, if your brain appeared beside me earlier, I would have beaten this helping bastard to fine teeth. From now on, you are my military officer. Who dares to say that you are a little bit unworthy? I will be the first to chop him. Lin Ruochen smiled and agreed, knowing in his heart that although these little tricks boosted the enthusiasm, the real challenge was still at the forefront. The main force of the enemy was not moving yet, and the clerk Zhou Xuanqi behind him was not a vegetarian. This person could have given the Zhao Pa army several times, but he was definitely not a simple role. He had to take advantage of this period of time to score more trump cards so that the opponent would not be caught and broken. At this moment, a soldier hurriedly ran in and reported that there was news in the Bluestone City that the woman he had rescued had woken up and asked Lin Ruochen to see him. Zhao Po's army heard it, his eyebrows snaked, and he turned around and asked, "Ruochen, what's the woman coming? What do you think?" Lin Ruochen put down the wine bowl, pondered for a while, and said, "It is not easy to be able to survive the war alone. I have to go back to see her and ask her details so as not to leave any trouble." Zhao defeated the troops and sent a few secretaries to go back with Lin Ruochen. Ding said, "Be careful. If there's anything wrong with each other, don't force it. Be strict with your life first." Lin Ruochen responded and took the people back to Qingshi City at night. When we arrived at the small courtyard in the city, it was already dawn. He pushed the door and saw the woman sitting on the bed. Although her face was still a little white, her eyes had regained a little. When she saw Lin Ruochen, she was slightly stunned, and immediately showed a light smile, and her voice softly carried a silk to try. "Are you Lin Ruochen? You heard that Bluestone City can be kept by your plan?" Lin Ruochen was worried, and he was silent on his face and said with a smile, "I've given the prize. I'm just making a fool of myself and my energy is so strong." "But girl, who is here alone in this place? Can you say it?" The woman lowered her head and was silent for a while, as if she was thinking about it. After a while, she looked up at him, with a complex look in her eyes. "My name is Su Wanyi." She was originally from the capital of Tianqing. She was in trouble at home and then fled to the edge. When she met an enemy on the road, she almost died. "Thank you for saving me." Lin Ruochen heard it, but he was not convinced in his heart. The woman's temperament and the principles of her speech are not like ordinary people who escape. She still has an indescribable sense of pressure, as if she is hiding something big secret. He didn't expose it, but just smiled and said, "Miss Su, I won't mention the past. Although Qingshi City is safe now, the battles in the surrounding area are not over yet. If you have no place to go, why don't you stay here first and help you with something within your ability?" Su Wanyi was slightly stunned and immediately said, "Okay, I'm willing to stay. But I'm a little unhappy and may not be able to help me." Lin Ruochen thrust his hand and said, "If you don't force yourself, you can help as much as possible. Miss Su has a good rest first, and I will come to you if you have something to do." Walking out of the yard, Lin Ruochen's smile instantly closed and his brain began to move quickly. Su Wan was definitely not simple. Her appearance was too coincidental. It happened that Bluestone City had just finished fighting, so she might have any contact with the enemy. He had to find an opportunity to try the quest, and at the same time he had to be on guard against her, so that she would not be able to get involved in the conspiracy. In the next few days, Lin Ruochen helped Zhao break the defense line that was tightened by the Black and Black, and secretly observed Su Wan. Although this woman's appearance was weak, her occasionally revealed skills and understanding of the war made him increasingly suspicious of her identity. At this moment, the spy brought a message saying that the main forces of the enemy were gathering, and the wise man behind him, Zhou Xian, was on his own and ready to launch a large-scale counterattack against the Black Risk. Lin Ruochen heard it, and his heart sank, knowing that the real exam was coming. He opened the system panel and began to analyze the enemy's possible attack routes, and at the same time called Zhao to defeat the troops to prepare for negotiations. This battle not only concerns the gains and losses of the Black Winds, but also faces the first frontal confrontation between him and Zhou Xianmao. He has to show his true skills, or if he is not careful, he may have to give his life here. The dark winds of night winds were full of biting chills, and the torches on the narrow border swayed in the wind, reflecting the soldiers' faces flashing and dark. Lin Ruochen stood on the wall, looking away at the mountains and forests that were black-pressed everywhere. The system panel in the brain was quickly refreshing the enemy's movement data. According to the latest information of the spy, Zhou Xuanyi has led 50,000 troops by himself, only 3 days away from the Black Risk. The scale of this attack was unprecedented, and it was obvious that it was a desperate attempt to take down this narrow line and uproot the power of the Zhaobang army. If the enemy is going to be slaughtered this time, we are not enough staff and the grass can only be killed for half a month. What can you do? The Zhaopa army stood beside him, his voice was low, his face and cheeks looked particularly powerful under the fire, but there was a trace of worry in his eyes. Although he was a fierce opponent, he also understood that he could not fight this tough battle with just his strength. Lin Ruochen turned over and grinned. Although his face was a little pale, he still looked relaxed. Don't panic, military force. Although Zhou Xuanyi is a man, he is not a god. Since he dares to come here, he will show that he has great confidence in his own ideas. As long as we seize this point, we will dig a hole for him, and it may make him fall into a big head. When Zhao Po's army heard this, his eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked, "What's the pit? Tell me." Lin Ruochen didn't sell the secret, and he kept his plan in plate in a low voice. Based on the terrain data analyzed by the system, he found that there was a secret mountain road on the east side of the Black Wind. Although it was narrow, it was enough to allow a team to traverse behind the enemy. If we could use this mountain road and send a powerful enemy army to a heavy grass, which would cut off their logistics line, Zhou Xuanyi's 50,000 troops would have to be passive. At the same time, the Black Wind Guard pretended to be weak, and took out an unscrupulous strife, inducing the enemy to attack with all his might, and then set up a trap within the gate to hit the dog. This method is ruthless. After hearing the Zhaopa army, he slapped his thighs suddenly, almost snatching the soldiers beside him. But in this mountain road, a miracle team was discovered, and the consequences were unbelievable. Who do you think can take this team? Lin Ruochen pondered for a while, glanced over the soldiers on the narrow side and finally landed on a figure that was nowhere to go: Suan. She has been helping with Guanai for the past few days. Although she only does some simple logistics work on the surface, Lin Ruochen has long noticed that her skills and familiarity with the terrain are definitely not something that ordinary women can do. He moved his heart and said, "I think Miss Su may be able to do the job. She is good at being a good match and is familiar with the mountain roads. If she leads her team, her success rate will be much higher." Zhao Po's eyebrows were snaking, and he was obviously a little hesitant. She? Can a woman do it? Besides, she hasn't figured out her way. If there is any problem, we will be done. Lin Ruochen smiled and raised his hand. Don't worry, the army, I will go with me and stare at myself. If she really has a problem, I will find it the first time. By then, you are in Guanai, and we will have a lot of fighting with both sides. Zhaopa army stared at Lin Ruochen for a while, and finally pointed, "Okay, just follow what you said. But Ruochen, you have to give me some caution and don't take yourself in." That night, Lin Ruochen found Suaner and briefly explained the plan. After hearing this, Suan's eyes flashed with a flash of distortion, but soon returned to calmness and said lightly, "Mr. Lin trusts me, so I will not disappoint you. But the road is steep and the enemy is numerous. If there is an accident, you and I have to prepare for your and I." Lin Ruochen was very cautious and was secretly alert. The woman's reaction was too calm, as if she had expected such a task to take place. He smiled and said, "Miss Su is right. We should take care of each other and there should be no big problem. It's not appropriate to be miserable, so let's move tonight." The night was as dark as ink, and Lin Ruochen, carrying Suan and 50 carefully selected soldiers, sneaked out from behind the Black Winds and groped along the secret mountain road. The mountain road is indeed a must-have. There are cliffs on both sides, and if you are not careful under your feet, you may fall to pieces. Suana walked in the front, her pace was as light as a mountain cat. She could find the foot droplets accurately when she encountered dangerous areas, which made Lin Ruochen secretly shocked. "Miss Su, you are not as good as an ordinary person. Lin Ruochen deliberately tried and walked around and said in a low voice, "Have you practiced before?" Suan stepped a step, turned her head and looked at him, and smiled. "Young Master Lin is so worried. I just ran around the mountains when I was a child, and I have been practicing the skills. But you, with such a thin body, dare to take risks, and you are quite stupid." Lin Ruochen was chasing and didn't ask anymore, but the suspicion in his heart became deeper. Suan said this, without any leakage, but the more she felt like she had a big secret. After traveling in the middle of the night, they finally went behind the enemy. A short distance could see a temporary campground, filled with grass and heavy weight. There were only 200 guards, surrounded by fires to keep warm, and they did not notice the danger in the dark. Lin Ruochen opened the system panel, confirmed the enemy's patrol route, and said to Suan in a low voice, "Let's move separately. You took half of the people from the left side to touch them. I took people from the right side to solve the sentry and set fire directly. After burning, retreat, don't fight." Suan clicked her head and quietly rushed to the left without any noise. Lin Ruochen slowly approached from the right side with his other half. Their movement was so fast that several sentrymen were wiped off their necks without even making any sounds. Afterwards, Lin Ruochen ignited a torch and threw it hard at the pile of haystacks. The fire instantly lit up, illuminating half of the campground. "Evil!" The guard finally responded and shouted in panic, but it was too late. Suan also succeeded, and the fire spread rapidly, and the land was in chaos. Lin Ruochen saw this and ordered, "Retreat. Don't worry about them, go back along the same path." The team quickly withdrew. Although the enemy tried to chase the map, the mountain road was narrow and it was dark, so it could not catch up at all. By the time they returned to the dark winds, the sky was already bright and the fire from the enemy camp was still burning. It was obvious that the logistics line had been completely destroyed. When Zhao soldiers saw them coming back safely, they shouted excitedly, "Okay. Fucking beautifully. Zhou Zhongyi is so angry that he will jump out of his feet next time." Lin Ruochen smiled and pointed, but her eyes couldn't help but glance at Suan. She stood aside, with no expression on her face, but just lowered her head and wiped the dagger on her hand, as if she had just experienced an ordinary night walk. He sank in his heart and thought to himself, this woman is indeed not simple. She has to find an opportunity to try again when she goes back. As Lin Ruochen expected, the news that the grass was burned was transmitted to Zhou Xuanwei's ears. The enemy soldier immediately ordered the entire army to accelerate the attack and tried to take down the Black Risk before the grass was exhausted. The next morning, the 50,000 troops appeared under the gate, and the sound of war was shocking, and the soldiers were as high as they were about to slap everything. Zhao Po's army stood on the wall, held the long gun in his hand, and whispered, "A guy like Zhou Zhongyi is really a chance to not breathe. If you are so dirty, are our trap ready?" Lin Ruochen pointed his head and slided on the corner of his mouth, "Don't worry, everything is arranged. If the enemy is eager to attack, he will inevitably be attacked. Let's take this opportunity to give them a big gift." As Lin Ruochen expected, although Zhou Xuanwei was too wise, he was also fainted by anger at this time and ordered the entire army to attack, but he did not notice the differences within the confinement. The black-stricken defender deliberately showed weakness, pretended not to be enemies, retreated during the period, and led the main force of the enemy into the jurisdiction. Just as the enemy was holding the ticket, Lin Ruochen called a command, and the huge rocks and tinder oil from both sides rushed down. At the same time, the ambushed archers raked in a row, and the enemy was beaten up in an instant. "Close! Don't let them run away!" Zhao Po's roared, and the soldiers of the guards were greatly boosted, and they had a fierce battle with the enemy. Lin Ruochen stood at a high place, looking far away at the scene. The system panel showed that the enemy's deaths were rising at a speed. He knew that the struggle for this battle had been decided. The battle lasted for a whole day, and the enemy was eventually beaten to the point of defeat. Half of the 50,000 troops were defeated, and the remaining soldiers fled to the emperor. Although Zhou Zhongyi was reluctant to save his life, he was also seriously injured and was fled back to his nest by his subordinates. As the Black War broke out, Zhao Dao's force finally stood firm. No one dared to pick it easily. After the war, there was a lot of trepidation in the Guan Pass, and the soldiers shouted the names of Lin Ruochen and Zhao Pojun, wishing this scene a hard-earned victory. Zhao Po's army pulled Lin Ruochen and forced him to drink several big bowls of wine, smiling and unable to hold his mouth shut. "Ruochen, this battle is so good." Zhou Xuanji, the guy who heard your name in the future, would have to tremble. "Let's say, what are we going to fuck next?" Lin Ruochen wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and said with a smile, "The war is won, but this is not so simple." Although Zhou Xianmao has eaten, the strength behind him has not yet appeared. We have to take advantage of this opportunity to expand the earth and recruit soldiers and horses. Otherwise, next time, they will make a comeback, and we will not be so good. Zhao defeated the military head and patted his chest and said, "Okay. I'll hear you. From now on, we brothers have the final say in this area of Tianyuan Kingdom." At this moment, a soldier hurriedly ran over and said a few words in Lin Ruobao's ear. His face changed slightly, and he turned to Zhao Po's army. "I have something to deal with, so I'll lose my companion first." Zhao defeated the army and slaughtered his hands, no more questions. Lin Ruochen quickly walked towards a small courtyard behind Guanai. When he pushed the door open, he saw Suan standing in the courtyard, facing him with her back, holding a letter that had just been opened, as if she had just received some news. "Miss Su, I'm not going to rest so late. Is there anything wrong?" Lin Ruochen deliberately put on a relaxed temperament, but his eyes were staring at the letter in her hand. Suan turned around, and still had that pure smile on her face. She stuffed her letter into her sleeves with her hands and said lightly, "It's nothing, I just received a family book and asked me that I've been shattered recently. However, Mr. Lin, this battle was beautiful, and his reputation was probably going to spread throughout the world of heaven." Lin Ruochen sneered in his heart, and said in a slight voice, "Miss Su has won the prize. I just made a fool of myself and my energy is so strong. But you have helped a lot in the past few days, and I haven't thanked you very much. How about I ask someone to order wine and food tomorrow, so let's have a good chat?" Su Wanya was slightly stunned and immediately said, "Okay, then I'm better off living than respect." Lin Ruochen smiled and told her, and after she walked out of the yard, the smile on her face disappeared instantly. He knew that the letter in Su Wan's hand was definitely not a household book, and it was probably related to her true identity. He had to find an opportunity to dig out her bottom, otherwise this variable would be a mess. The night was getting deeper, and the dark winds of congratulations continued, and the flames reflected every smile on the cliff. Lin Ruochen stood on the wall, looking away at the mountains and rivers, and his heart was not relaxed. He knew that although this battle was won, the greater storm was still being curled. The world of heaven and earth has never ended, and he, the catcher from the sky who traveled through time, must activate greater dangers. A few days later, the Zhao Po army began to send people to recruit troops according to Lin Ruochen's suggestion, and at the same time, they repaired the barriers and prepared to face the next challenge. Lin Ruochen secretly set off and tried to reveal Su Wan's true identity. He found out that behind this woman, there might be a secret that is bigger than Zhou Xianhui, and it is even closely related to the fate of the Tianyuan Kingdom. Far away, the sound of the war drums is coming, and the new war fire seems to be mowing again. Lin Ruochen clenched his fists and his eyes were firm. No matter what the future ahead, he had to use his wisdom to kill a bloody road in this troubled world, protecting the people around him, and protecting this familiar land he gradually became familiar with.